Hey everyone, welcome to the Parts Girl podcast. I'm interviewing Peter Smith with Lion Partnership today. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you for having me, Kaylee. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, you were highly recommended to interview, so I'm excited. I don't really know much about you, just a few times that we've talked. So,
Okay, well, let me just give you the quick version of me. I'm a 4 decade plus veteran of this industry. So I've worked in Canada, United States, and in Europe. I've always been primarily on the variable side, but no fixed as well. And basically, it just love the business, and I'm still, after 4 decades, a student of the business.
that's awesome. And you have an interesting story because you just got back into the industry after it's been about a year because of bad experiences. Can we talk about that?
Sure. I retired out of the industry in 2021, and in 2022 my wife was in uh, what I would call a very, very minor collision with her Tesla. It only cracked the bumper and broke a taillight, so because the taillight was broken, it couldn't be driven. 9 months later, it still wasn't fixed, and the car deteriorated around itself, and the car had to be written off.
Wow.
And that led me to the next stage of the car buying experience, or the car ownership experience, buying a car. You would think after 40 years I would have a great and easy, frictionless way of buying a car. It was horrific. It was unbelievably bad. And I said that the business is broken. So I'm getting back in, and I'm going to be a mentor to everyone out there in the business and develop a collective of vetted vendors to help dealerships move forth in the new dimension of car sales, which is customer experience and dealership experience. One is on the outside, one is on the inside. So that's what I started the Lion Partnership to do.
No, I really like how you've done that because I think that when it comes to vetting vendors, if you're not a large organization, you don't have someone that's assigned to vetting vendors. So having that partnership with you, having that you've gone through the process of vetting people and vendors, and then just recommending like when you're working with a dealership, seeing their problems and then making those recommendations.
Oh, absolutely. It honestly, the people in dealerships today don't have the time to do what they need to do. And second of all, if they did take that time, it would consume their entire day. So hiring someone like myself to go through it for them is probably the best ROI that they can ever have.
Yeah, because that's what I mean. A lot of times you think you're getting the solution that you want or need because you just don't have that time to really vet. So what's your process when you're looking at vendors of, having them, vetted? What does that look like?
Well, first they have to have determined success, and that is not this saying, "Yes, I can do this." I want to see that it actually can work. Does it solve a solution? How fast can it be implemented? And does it play well with others? The second part of it is, will the employees or team members actually engage in it to make it work? Because there's so many shiny lures out there that dealers go and say, "Hey, I was just at an NADA, and this I was told that this happens, and I'm going to implement it at the dealership." If they don't get buy-in of the teams, or if it's not simple enough, or if it's not engageable, they won't use it. So it's useless, no matter what the ROI is claimed.
Mhm.
So having said that, I go out and I test it myself. I do all the demos. I do the focus groups, seeing if any dealerships will take it up. And right now, I'm doing that with a telephone AI system that I find absolutely incredible.
Well, I definitely have questions about that because I feel like that's such a hot topic. And if you use the word AI, I feel like most people don't want to hear about what you
Yep,
have.
yep,
So,
exactly, exactly.
so what are you, tell me about that company and tell me about, what you're learning.
So one of the things with this company is, the very first thing with telephones is we typically record calls in the car dealership, And we always say it's for quality and training purposes, which is the biggest line of BS I've ever heard, because no one listens to them, no one uses them for quality, and no one uses them for training. They never do. They're used for liability only. When someone drops the ball, they go back to the recording. It's like a game tape, and they say, how did we go wrong here? And are we liable? So this system does very similar to that. It records all the calls, but instantaneously it's sending it off to AI to transcribe them. And then it's taking out the keywords that you ask it to search for, and then categorizing all the phone calls to see where they fit. And if it's a hot lead, it sends it directly to the stakeholder, which then deciphers what needs to be done. If it's an opportunity, if it's a challenge, if it's anything, it gets sent out right away. Then you can go back into the system and very simply look at a dashboard, a very simple dashboard, and you can see where your lost opportunities are, and do the the save of deals and everything else from that. And it's very simple. It's this icons, and it's a great system. But the most incredible system about it is, we can, when we're training our people to say things, we can see if they are actually saying it on the phone call. And that way we can hold our teams accountable for what we want done in the dealership. It's an incredible system. And it's the most it's the best money spent in a dealership, if you ask me.
So does it automatically set the, I don't know if it's called
Yep,
parameters, but basically, yeah, it auto, and then you can make changes per your
exactly.
dealership?
Exactly. So
Wow.
if you were in Buffalo, like with Matthew Lasher, and you wanted to know how many Bills fans mentioned football on your phone call, it will tell you exactly how many people. And then you can have a Buffalo Bills event at the dealership and invite just those people. And so your targeted marketing is absolutely incredible. You can turn around and say, okay, how many times was an alignment mentioned on a service advisor phone call? You can ask, how many times did we get tire calls in the parts department? You physically, and there is no way of actually categorizing that in a dealership right now. This system does it.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's
So
exciting.
I was asked to vet the system, and I have no skin in the game on it, but I recommend it to anybody, and it's just incredible.
Can we say what the company is?
Sure, sure. That the gentleman that represents it is Jeff Shearer, and the company is N Intelligence. So
No.
it's like letter N, then intelligence, as in telephone gents. So it's
Oh,
it's a neat play on words, and it's phenomenal because it's instantaneous response. Not only that, it can turn around and actually make phone calls to the representatives. So it can call up the sales rep at 9 a.m. and say, this person wanted a call back at this time, call them.
wow.
So it has that
Does it
capability.
does it report? Like, does it send them, like, I don't know, some sort of like report that
You
shows
can
this
have
so that,
reporting with it. You can have all kinds of different things with it. It's
wow.
it's like, well, we all know the great companies out there. There's Co Video, which is an amazing video company. You got UVI, which is an amazing drive-through system that is being implemented across the nation. You have Trade Pending. You have A to Z Sync. You got the great CRMs and everything out there. There's so many great companies, but you really want to know companies that are going to actually elevate you. And this is one of them. This is truly a company that will elevate you as a dealership. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm proud to be one of the people that they've actually contacted for me to go through their system top to bottom.
wow, that's really, so that leads me to my next question of starting this business. What has been the hardest part about, you know, getting started as a this new business you've developed?
So the hardest part for me is actually crossing the 49th parallel, which is the US border. It's all the business is in the United States. There's very
Mhm.
little in Canada because Canadians are not pioneering dealerships. US is like you show them something that could potentially double their return, they'll buy it in a heartbeat. Where Canadians will say, "Oh no, we'll wait 5 years until it's proven." And so crossing the border is one thing. The other thing is because I haven't worked in the US that much, my name is not known like the other people that are out there. So having said that, that is a detriment to me. It's getting better because of the power of LinkedIn and how much
Mhm.
content I've been putting out on LinkedIn and going through that Clubhouse and the connections that I've driven there. Now I'm part of the Automotive Partners Association, which is being developed by Tony T and Paul Brobston. So it's amazing on how many people have welcomed me into the fold, but it's still getting into the dealerships and saying, because I'm not the guy that's going to sit there and call every general manager in the US and say, "Hey, you got to hire me. You got to hire me. You got to hire me." It's just not, it's not my gig. If you want my assistance, you got 40 years of expertise. It goes back to the old Boilermaker story. The guy goes into the ship and taps on the boiler and fixes it in 5 seconds and turns around and offers the guy the invoice, and it's $10,000. And the guy says, "Well, you're only there for 10 seconds. Yeah, but I spent 40 years learning how to tap the boiler in the right spot. So you're paying for the 40 years of expertise. You're not paying for the 10 seconds for me to go in and say it." Now, obviously it's not 10 seconds I'm in a dealership, but it's it's
That makes
quite some
sense.
time.
Yeah. And going back to just the power of LinkedIn, what has been like a strategy that has really worked well for you? Because I think a lot of people in our industry, especially in the vendor space, are really trying to utilize LinkedIn to get their name out there to show, what they can do without having to call and cold call all the time because no one wants
Yeah.
to be cold called.
No, and GMs don't have the time or the bandwidth to accept cold calls. A lot of GMs say, "You send me a 1 minute video on what you do." Well, do you want to do a canned video or do you want to do a personalized video? It just gets impossible to do. So I look for word of mouth. I look for the content building that I'm putting out there. If you like what I'm saying, then you'll engage. And I've taken just to give you a thing I measured myself on. We've all heard of a SodaCon and Osodu with Paul and Kyle, and they set a stipulation of 1,000 followers in their first year. I used that same thing without a team of people, and I achieved it in 11 months by just pounding the keyboard with content and everything else. I've also pushed out over 25,000 followers and well, I increased it by 10,000 in a period of 12 months.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a
So
lot of hard work.
yeah, it's if you really are passionate about it, which I am, and you will find that you find the time to do it. Luckily enough, I'm at that point in my life that I can spend 12, 14, 16 hours up behind the keyboard and get things done.
Yeah, I find that I have to structure my day so that I can still do all the things I need to do, but also make sure I'm on LinkedIn. Because engaging in the content is such a, it's like, how could you not do it? It's like
Yeah.
both, it's part of your day. It has to be.
It's like getting up at 6:45 for the clubhouse call every morning. It's part of my day, 6 days a week. I'm on there,
Yeah.
and it's not that I'm there to tell people what I do or what I can achieve. It's about learning that one extra thing every single day, and I'll have it on in the background for 3 hours just to learn that one thing that I can help my clients with. And
Hmm.
that's and that might not be something that I've thought of in the last 5 years. I know it, but I just haven't thought of it, and it's bringing it top to mind. And that's and
Yeah.
that's the power of the internet is bringing. everything, the information to top of mind.
Mhm. And what are your favorite clubhouses that you go to religiously?
Well, pretty much it looks like all my clubhouses all have little black squares, all things cars, all things used cars, all things fixed ops, the human side of AI, they're all black boxes. And then of course the Automotive Partners Association.
Oh, okay. What is the automotive? So that's a newer thing, Automotive Partners Association?
Yes, that's Tony T and Paul Brobson have gotten together to bring together all of our vetted vendors between all of us out there as a collective. Like we
Mhm.
have like Larry Feldman, Paul Robson, Michael Larkin, Wendy Reeves, Jennifer Sanford. They're all on as a partner, a founding partner to this because we all have the same mentality. We all are there to and have that mindset of making this business better, not making profit. It's not a profit thing. It's about that mentorship of making it better, knowing that I might be able to invite you to a vendor that might make your dealership operate better, but not as profitable as another one. Like and
Mhm.
that's the thing. It's building that customer experience. I use the Carl Sewell mentality, which is customers for life. It was the first automotive book I read, and it was all about that one customer is worth 30 sales. And you don't have to make everything on that customer, but you have to treat them right. And if you treat them right, you will make exponentially more than the one and dones. And that's the issue with a lot of vendors out there. They're just in there to get you into a contract, to get you signed up because they have their salespeople trained that that's all it's about is getting new clients. They don't care about their churn rate. They care about their their acquisition rate.
Mhm. Where do you think that comes from? Like, why are salespeople or why do companies operate in that way? Not even just vendors, dealers, operate that way as well.
Well, again, the car business in to its own fault has always operated on a 30-day window. It's every 30 days. We don't typically look at an annual sales rate. We look at, did we make target this month? Did we make target this month? We don't look at quarters. We don't look at there. I've never seen a car business ever work on a quarterly rate. So it's a challenge because it's always that instantaneous gratification that dealers want. And it's
Mhm.
regardless of it incoming or outgoing. Is so outgoing is through their customers, incoming is through their vendors. So everyone wants instantaneous gratification. And that all changed when technology came about because I I started in this business in 1982. Okay. So a long time ago, before computers, before cell phones, before fax machines, before our computer was a filing cabinet. You went over to the filing cabinet and you got a file. Your phones had cords on them. There was no such thing as a cordless phone. There was no such thing as a cell phone. Everything bank contracts were actually walked to the bank. So
Wow.
you didn't mail them. You actually physically got in a car and drove them down to the bank to get them cashed. So it was a different time. It was more about relationships. So you'd walk into a bank and the person would know exactly what you were there for because you were there so often. Same with
Mhm.
clients coming in. It was all about a long-term customer value system. Now that's gone. We have to reinstall that because COVID killed it. COVID made it absolutely transactional. And it
Mhm.
now now as dealers are going, what do we do? What do we do? We are now gone from 25-day average day supply in on a lot. Now you have dealerships that have 200 plus days supply on lots. And they're panicking because they're paying huge interest rates on them and they don't know what to do because the people that they've hired, they've lost the people that were pre-COVID. They've hired new people and they're only trained in COVID scenarios that, hey, we
Mhm.
don't know what an outbound marketing call is. We don't know what this is. We don't know how to bring in a wholesale business because we didn't do it. It wasn't there.
Mhm.
So there's a training, there's a coaching, there's all kinds of things. We have to rip it right back down to the foundation. And I explained it to a dealer group in South Jersey. We have to do a tornado. We got to take it right down to the concrete and then build right back up, because that's the only way you're going to survive this. Because right now you're living
Exactly.
in a house full of straw.
Well, and it's incredible how fast it changes. So we're constantly changing. So then we have to adapt and change strategy, but that doesn't happen. It's
No,
like the
it doesn't.
process and strategy stays the same.
Well, that's because we live in a business that we've always done it this way, and this is how we got the success we did. That
Mhm.
no one wants to step outside the box for growth. And and the problem is, and I hate saying this because it's shooting me in the foot, it's the dealer principals who have their names on the side of the building and said, I'm successful, so I know what I'm doing. Well, I can tell you right now, I'm successful in life. I've gotten everything I've ever wanted in life, but I can't write code. I do not know what social media marketing is. I do not know how to capture the data off the internet that I need. So I follow along the Richard Branson moniker that you bring the smartest people to work for you. Just because they're smarter than you doesn't mean that they're going to surpass you. You're going to get the right information for growth. So
Yeah.
bringing them in is the smartest thing you can do. And that's the challenge with the car business. A GM doesn't want to hire a sales manager that's smarter than they are. A sales manager doesn't want to hire a salesperson that's smarter than he is or she is. And same right down from parts managers to advisors, from service directors to service managers to service advisors. Nobody wants to go and actually improve their business. They want to stabilize their job strategies.
Yeah, and there's that fear that's around all of that. I know like with my strategy and my process, I'm constantly tweaking it, but I'm also fearful sometimes because like I'm like, okay, some things are working and you don't want to change it, but it's like you constantly have to change those things that are working because the market and everything around us is changing. That's why I have to remind myself because I just get
Exactly.
fearful. Yeah.
Exactly. Fear is just false expectations appearing real. That's it. and and
Mhm.
and I'll give you a real quick rundown. When I was 16, I was in a bad car accident. I had to learn how to walk, talk, read, write, everything again. I lost over 100 pounds. I was I You could put a 40-watt light bulb behind me and take X-rays. It was
Were you in
ridiculous.
a coma
I was in
or?
a coma. I had traumatic amnesia. I had, you name it. I had it. I had three brain surgeries, and you name it. It was awful. I spent 5 years of my
Wow.
life going in and out of hospitals, getting rebuilt. Now, if you want, I was physically deformed. I had to walk through life as a teenager in the most impressionable point of your time. And the most important thing in life, and I will give this out to anybody, especially with what I've lived through, is positivity. So no matter how bad it is, if you're on the right side of the dirt, it's a good day. And that's what you have to look at. You have to look at your business. You don't walk into your business going, I'm 30% off target, and I don't know how it's going to happen. You walk into your business and say, hey, I'm only 30% off target. Let's get this up to 20% today, and let's get it up to 10% tomorrow. And let's keep that positivity rolling, because that's how you survive. And too many people are going in the wrong direction, and they're flushing themselves down the drain, and there's no need for
Mhm.
it. I don't know how many dealers out there, and you probably read the posts that I did on turnover and the cost of turnover. And if they don't realize that they can save millions in a year on turnover costs, if they only trained and coached their people properly and had someone to come in and hold them accountable. Their businesses
Yeah.
would go up and they'd save tons of money. Why they don't do it? Is because it's not on the statement. And if it's not on the statement, they can't see it.
Yeah. You can't see the RO, or it's not as right in front of your face
And
as far as the ROI goes.
it's not definitive.
Yeah. And
So
I think like it goes back to what you're saying is what you tell yourself is what you believe. If you're constantly saying negative things, that's what's your reality. It just sounds so like cliche, but it really does happen.
think of it this way: you're going into a job interview. You know that there's 500 people applying for that job. You have a 1 in 499 chance of getting that job. If you walked in there with your head held down, going, "Oh, geez, the odds are against me," what's the chances you're
Yeah.
going to get that job? You're not. You walk in
You're
there and
not.
go, I'm one of the chosen 500 that is here for that job. I'm going to show them exactly why I'm here, and that will get you further ahead than the other way. So again, we have to look at every single opportunity we have in this business to move the needle forward, not backwards.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I mean, I always think about how, and then this might be like a little dark, but my dad passed away 5 or 6 years ago, and I've kept finding in his truck because he didn't have much paper, like little written notes saying "You will die with nothing," and he pretty much died. I mean, died with a lot of junk, but he died with nothing. So it's one of those things. It's like, especially if you write it down too, it's like you got to flip that around and say
E-
positive things to yourself.
Exactly. So I'll give you brought up something. My dad passed in 2014 or 2015, sorry. And one of the things that got me to recognize who I was as a person was my dad's passing, because it it showed me who he was as a man, and how he didn't have half the things that I had. So materialistically, I succeeded my dad, but in reality, I was so far behind my dad in life. It was incredible. I wrote the obituary for my father, and I that affected me more than any one situation in my life, to teach me that I had to become a servant leader to actually achieve life in it as a goal. And it
Yeah,
dynamically changed me.
it does. I now I'm reflecting too because I wrote my dad's and it was really sad. It
Yeah.
was really
So
sad.
so sorry to bring that up, but let's move on
No,
to
no, no.
great things.
Let's move on to what?
Let's move on to great things. Like,
Yes, let's talk about great things. Well,
like
we're kind of need to wrap it up too. We're
sure,
heading to that time frame. So I want to just get kind of ask you some of the fun questions I like to ask towards the
sure.
end. And so is there anything that speaking about positivity, is there a certain quote that you always go back to or a mantra that you're like constantly telling yourself to keep moving? Because I feel like in your position, starting a company, you have to have that, you know, positivity to keep telling yourself to keep going.
Well, I'm gonna go through to a person who a lot of people think is the greatest hockey player in the world, Wayne Gretzky, and his quote was, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." So if you recognize that it's an opportunity, you have to take that shot and you have to give it your all. Russell Hill said, if you see it as an opportunity, you're probably too late. And so I'm there and I'm working hard to get ahead of that curve, so that it's not an opportunity, it's already taken. So that's get rise early, go to bed late. First in for last out.
Well, and I go back to what you're doing is so important because not a lot of dealerships have the people to be able to be in your position to vet and actually, find the true solutions. You could save so much money when you actually vet the solution. So being on the other side as a salesperson, I always appreciate when a dealership or someone in your role is actually vetting and asking questions because then I know they're actually going to use the solution that
Yes,
we're or the service that we're doing and they're not
yes,
just buying it. Yeah.
yeah. It's not bought to be in a drawer.
It's
Meaning
yes.
you don't
Yeah.
buy it and put it away. You buy it to use it.
To use it. Yep, it's the best. And that's the most satisfying thing is like they're actually using it. They're seeing results and then it's like, yeah. So, okay, so what is do you have a favorite car? I always like to ask people what their favorite car is because we're in the car business.
Wow. That it's funny. I've had every single car except for two. I've never owned a Rolls Royce and I've never owned a Maserati, but I've owned every other car out there that you can ever imagine. And I always go back and the I love Porsches, but I always go back to my favorite, the Jeep Wrangler, and I always will have one. Always,
Oh,
always,
that's
always have a Wrangler somewhere. And
oh yeah.
it's just I just love the versatility of it.
Oh yeah, they've been around for so long and they've just, they're good. Do you like the two-door or four-door?
And you know what? I loved the two door up until they they actually extended the length of the vehicle, and that was I think in when they went to the TJ and from the YJ, and or it
Mhm.
was originally a Wrangler in the States, but then I started driving four doors and I loved them ever since. They're a bit
Yeah,
more
I don't
they're a bit more clumsy or cumbersome because taking four doors off and a much bigger roof and stuff like that is a pain in the butt. But I think they're the best of everything.
Oh yeah, and I think for like an off-roading perspective, having a longer is it's safer actually,
Yes,
not having it so short. So, I don't think I've ever owned a two-door vehicle now I'm like thinking about it.
I've
I
had
don't think I
lots.
ever wanted it.
I've had lots.
That's cool. That's
So
awesome. And then my last question is, what do you love most about what you're doing?
the greatest thing I have is I will go on LinkedIn and I'll find a salesperson out there and that's doing the right thing. And I'll contact that salesperson and I'll say, listen, I have a half an hour every week on Tuesday. Contact me and I will help you through everything that I can educate you and give you because I see you making a difference and trying to make a difference. I have right now, I have four salespeople out there that I'm mentoring from all over North America. And
Oh,
it's the greatest thing when they call me up and they go, hey, boss, I had a 10 car week. It was fantastic. You showed me this one trick and it's working. And it for that in itself is more than anything could ever imagine. It's better than getting the five rooftop deal, although the five rooftop deal would be great. But hearing people that you've mentored actually succeed, it's fantastic.
oh yeah. I always appreciate when people reach out and help. And I always go back to Sean Armour because right when I started getting on LinkedIn, he reached out to me and he gave me so much advice and like he just uplifts me every time I talk to him. I'm like, okay, thanks, I can do this. So
So so I'll
it's
give a
really
big
good.
shout out to Sean for a second here.
Yeah.
Last year was my first NADA that I ever attended in all my career. Sean
Wow.
Sean was basically my roommate at NADA, but he was in another hotel. I picked him up at the airport. I took him every day to and from NADA. We ate together. We had lunch together, dinner together. We went to all the events together. He was my mentor at NADA. And he showed me
That
more than in the 3 days I was there than I could ever do in my probably five trips to NADA. So I am
mhm.
forever grateful for Sean. I talk to Sean at least once every 2 weeks. We challenge each other. We talk about everything from book writing to posts to you name it, and contracts and getting contracts and how to get them. So
Yeah.
he is a fantastic individual, and I'm forever grateful for Sean. So I applaud exactly what he's doing for everybody out there, and I try and mirror myself after him as well.
Yeah, to see what he's doing and then how it's helped you, you wanna make other people feel that way, and if you could offer that, and it sounds like you are with the salespeople that you're working with, so that's what it's all about,
Yeah.
just, like, coming together and just making everything better.
Absolutely. As they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. So if we can lift each other up, we can lift this industry up.
We can, yeah. Well, is there anything that you wanna add before we close out?
No, I just want to say thank you very much for having me on. It's a real pleasure and extremely grateful for your time, especially knowing that your time is very limited right now, considering having the little boy Aiden. And
Oh,
I think it's a fantastic thing that we got this opportunity. So I'm forever grateful. Thank you, Kaylee.
thank you, I'm so glad. Alright.
All
Have a
right,
great night or
you
today.
too. You too. Take care now. Bye bye.
Thank you for joining us. PartsEdge, the power tool for your parts department. We hope you're leaving feeling motivated, challenged, and inspired.